The cafe smelled of fresh bread and coffee that morning, but for David, the world felt gray. He sat alone at the corner table, his shoulders slouched under the invisible weight of loneliness. A widower at just 35, David had forgotten what joy looked like. His days were mechanical: work, eat, sleep, and repeat. He'd stopped celebrating birthdays years ago, ever since his wife, Clara, had passed away from cancer. But today, he noticed something unusual. At the far side of the cafe, a young woman sat quietly with a single cupcake in front of her. The tiny candle flickered, though the morning light drowned it out. She looked around as if hoping someone might notice, but no one did. Her clothes were worn, her hair tied back hastily, and her eyes carried a heaviness that struck David's heart. He watched as she closed her eyes, leaned forward, and whispered to herself, "This is my last birthday." Then, with trembling lips, she blew out the candle. David froze. The words echoed inside him like thunder. Last birthday. Did she mean she was sick? Or was it despair? He didn't know, but something inside him, a part of his soul that had been silent for so long, refused to let her sit alone in that moment. He stood up, walked across the cafe, and gently tapped her table. "Excuse me," he said softly, "I couldn't help but notice, is it your birthday?" The woman looked startled, her cheeks flushed as if she hadn't expected anyone to hear her whisper. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "But it doesn't matter. It's just another day." David smiled faintly. "That's not true. Birthdays matter. You matter." She blinked rapidly, fighting back tears. For a moment, David saw himself, how he had once sat in that same silence, drowning in grief, believing no one cared. "Would you let me celebrate with you?" he asked. She hesitated, then gave a reluctant nod. That afternoon, David made a decision he hadn't made in years. He went all out. He ran to the local bakery and ordered the brightest cake he could find, picked up colorful balloons, and even bought a small bouquet of daisies, simple, but cheerful. He returned to the cafe where she was still sitting, staring at her cold cupcake, and laid everything on the table. The woman gasped. Her hands covered her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. You didn't have to do this," she whispered. David shook his head. "Yes, I did. No one should spend their birthday believing it's their last." They spent hours talking. She introduced herself as Emily. Life had been cruel to her, abandoned by family, struggling with illness, and recently told she had only months left to live. She had no friends, no one to lean on, no reason to hope. But that day, sitting across from David, something changed. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Her eyes, though still tired, sparkled with a hint of light. Days turned into weeks, and David stayed by her side. He accompanied her to doctor's visits, brought her meals when she was too weak to cook, and filled her small apartment with laughter, music, and warmth. When her strength faltered, he read to her stories of hope, of second chances, of love reborn. And when she doubted, he reminded her of the words he now lived by: "Every day is a gift. Let's unwrap it together." Her illness was real, but something remarkable happened. The doctors, astonished, noticed improvements. The heaviness in her heart began to lift, and her body, fueled by newfound joy, fought harder than before. On her next birthday, a day she thought she'd never see, David surprised her again. But this time, it wasn't in a cafe. He had gathered neighbors, friends, even strangers she'd touched with her story. Balloons floated above the yard, children laughed, and a beautiful cake stood tall in the center. Emily looked around, tears falling freely. "I don't understand, why would you do all this for me?" David took her hand gently. "Because someone once reminded me that even in our darkest hours, kindness can bring us back to life. You whispered that your last birthday had come, but Emily, I wanted you to see that as long as there's love, there's always another one waiting." She smiled through her tears, and in that moment, David realized something too. He hadn't just saved Emily, she had saved him. She gave him purpose again, a reason to live beyond his own sorrow. The night ended with laughter, music, and the warmth of two souls who had been broken but found healing in each other. And so, dear listener, remember this. Sometimes the simplest act of kindness can change someone's story completely. If you ever see someone sitting alone, whispering that the end has come, be the reason they find a new beginning. Because kindness, no matter how small, can turn the last birthday into the first of many. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more stories of kindness that just might change the way you see the world.